Hey everyone, it's Neil here again on EndlessPens channel. I've been asked before on my channel to do a comparison video amongst a Leonardo and a Radius. With that concept in mind, I reached out to EndlessPens to see if they'd be interested in me doing that concept of a video on their channel.
And they said, oh, yes, perfect.
As you can see, here I am. The two pens I have today are the Radius Settimo 1934. This is the purple swirl colorway. And I have the Leonardo Viola, which was a hatch collaboration with Nibs and Flourishes. Starting off with the box, the biggest difference here is pretty noticeable right away. The slipcover on the top of the hatch one is a unique collaboration, so I expect this to have a bit more of a premium kind of aesthetic and feel. It does. You get this nice sleeve here that kind of shows off all the designs of it. It tells you who they did this with and who did the blank. Versus the Radius package. The default box on the Radius though is pretty nice. This is a limited edition colorway they did, but this sleeve itself is their standard sleeve that they use on all of their pens. It's adorned with some nice artwork, and then you have the golden D-Boss logo branding on the top here. Once you have the slipcover off of both boxes, we now have the pen. Inside the box, you do have these instruction manuals. Both of them come with them. I don't really need to show them too in depth. They give you a little bit of history on the company, and then they also just tell you about the pen. Both pens come with this clear sleeve. I'm gonna take it off camera so you don't have to hear that noise. Both of the pens do come with charms. Leonardo is the only brand that I've known to do this. Maybe there are some other ones that it's kind of evaded me or eluded me. Radius, now that they're owned by Leonardo, they do this also. I cannot confirm if they did this before Leonardo owned them or not, but they do it now and they look very similar. Starting off with just the silhouette of the two pens, it's extremely close. When they're side by side, the length actually goes to the Radius. It's not much bigger, but it is slightly. The other big standout difference that's like immediately noticeable is the cap. The cap on the Radius is much bigger compared to the body versus the Leonardo, which tends to keep a much more streamlined shape. The points on the top are near identical, if not identical. I don't notice too much of a difference there. Going down from that, you have the clips. What I like about Leonardo and Radius is you don't actually see the ring around the cap here. The clip is put on internally with like a screw in there, so you can actually just do a single cutout, and it just gives you a really nice clean aesthetic. Both of these pens do that. The clip on the Leonardo is called the Rosalina clip. The clip on the Radius, I don't know the name of that, but I do know it's supposed to be symbolic and kind of resemble a tie. Let me just stop and talk about the material. The Viola is made by Taylor Pen Company, and then the Radius is made by Jonathan Brooks. Both of them are honestly just amazing colors. I'm a big fan of purple. One of my favorite inks is purple, so you should know I like these. So Leonardo actually offers a few different cap bands. This one is just their 3-ring one. They do this one pretty often, so I would maybe say it's their standard one, but I've seen it interchanged with the other one that I really like, which is this. But I don't know definitively if they would call this their default cap band or not, because I've seen the other one almost just as much as I've seen this one. The band on the Settimo though, it has these nice diamond cutouts here and it keeps a really good solid shape amongst it. It's very symmetrical. I kind of like the design there. It can be a little hard to see here, but on the back of the cap it says Leonardo Italy, and then on the back of the Radius cap it says Radius 1934. A big difference here is underneath the band though. On the Radius it tapers down. It has an edge on the end of the cap that you can see, and you don't really feel too much. It's actually smoothed out pretty well. You don't really see that on the Leonardo because the end of the cap merges really well with the body. I like this touch here on the Leonardo, maybe a bit better. It keeps a really good form for me. I will say the Radius has smoothed out this edge. I know some of their first renditions of this were a bit sharper. It seems like they took in consideration there and have made it now a lot smoother. Continuing down, the Radius has a very straight body from here. And then at the end, you get your immediate taper to another pointed finial versus the Leonardo, which is kind of tapering the whole way down. They also have this ring on the Leonardo because the end of the Leonardo is actually a blind cap, which lets you get to your converter on the inside.
Oh, that's nice.
When it comes to uncapping, the Leonardo uncaps in one full rotation, whereas the Radius uncaps in just a bit under, maybe like 3/4. It's not a big difference, but some people care about that. I think it's nice to have a pen that is easy to access quickly. Now on to the nibs. Leonardo does offer gold nibs, and Radius on their superior model offers gold nibs. You don't really see that model come out though. I have heard Salva, the owner, talk about bringing that out again or releasing some versions of it, so I would keep an eye out on that, but we're looking at stainless steel on both of these. They're both Yobo base, but the Leonardo one has their La Fenice branding on it, which is this really, really nice aesthetic. I have to admit that this is probably my favorite nib, and it's kind of hard to beat it. Both of these are paired with plastic feeds. On different versions of these pens, the feeds can vary, but on stainless steel for both of these, you're only getting a plastic feed. As for the grips, it's pretty different here. The Leonardo grip, if you just went to where the caps start, you have a space and then a ton more threads. But the grip on the Leonardo has a much big taper to it than the Radius does. The Radius is tapering all the way down with a flare at the end, but the Leonardo tapers a lot more to just a straight edge. If I was to give my personal opinion on this one, I actually like the Radius grip more. It's a bit wider, and then I like the flare out at the end to keep yourself from falling forward onto the nib. I am a heavy-handed writer, maybe you're not, I'm sure that plays into it, but I like having that flare at the end. Both of the bodies have threads cut directly into the resin, but the other threads are metal. The big difference with the converters here is Leonardo actually has a branded converter that says Leonardo, and they also put these metal end caps on their converters. I've heard Salva say the reason he does this, it feels more premium to have the metal bits on there. Both of the converters are threaded converters, so you have to spin it to take it out. Personally, I think it's kind of a placebo effect to think that the threaded ones are better than just friction fit. But because of that, I do believe I like the threaded ones better, and both of these include threaded.
I don't think it makes any difference.
The ink I'm going to use to ink up both of these pens is Leonardo Purple. I'm going to use the same ink on both so I get a really good comparison amongst the two. I thought about using a different ink, but I figured if I did that, if you like the ink better, you might have kind of an unconscious biasness, so we're just going to go with Leonardo Purple for both. And before we go into the writing sample, both pens do post. They post securely with no issues at all. These are not going anywhere once they're posted. As for the weight goes once they're posted, both caps are pretty lightweight. I would say you could do it comfortably. They get a bit longer for my taste, specifically the Leonardo gets a bit longer because the grip on that's a little bit smaller. I think you could get away with writing with either of these posted. It's really gonna be up to your own discretion. Personally, I like them unposted. I don't mind them posted though. The paper I'm going to use for my writing sample is this right here. This is called a storyboard notebook. These are made by Endless Stationery, which is a different company from EndlessPens.
I knew that.
The paper in these notebooks is called Regalia paper. I think it performs really well. I like it. They're relatively inexpensive, so we're going to be going with this. As for the writing sample though, I know I slipped a little bit on the dot on top of this. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. The writing is extremely similar. I honestly didn't notice much difference at all, which is a good thing because I think they wrote really well. They are steel nibs, but they both write really smooth. Both of these are a medium too, I made sure to do that. As for the feed keeping up, I don't think there's any issues here. As for the little squiggly things, I do this, but I write it rather fast compared to the rest of my writing. There's really no fading or fraying or anything like that. There's a bit of shading, which is kind of just a testament to the ink. Down here, what I did is I did a flex test. So these first lines are gonna be ones with no pressure, and then the one after will have pressure, back and forth, back and forth. Looking at them side by side, you could honestly get away with saying I wrote this with the same nib. I can almost see no difference, which is good to me. I think Radius is a brand that people care about and wanna know more about. So seeing these kind of results, I think that's a really good sign. I tried to get a pretty big assortment here in case you owned any of these so you can get an idea of how the size would be. So we have a Lamy 2000, Lamy Safari, Pilot Vanishing Point, here's the Leonardo and the Radius, then a custom 823, a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0, and then a Le Bon 325. This is how they all look capped. These two fall perfectly in the middle. Once they're all uncapped, or in the case of the Vanishing Point clicked, the sizes change a lot. The Lamy 2000 is actually the smallest one here, but then the Leonardo and Radius are the next in line, and everything else actually beats them out, which I'm a bit surprised by. Once they're all posted, you can see the size difference again. The Leonardo is actually the third biggest one here once it's posted, only beaten by the 325 and the Lamy Safari. The Radius is near identical to the Custom 823, which is a pen that I personally consider one of the best posting pens. So you may actually like it posted if you want to do that. All things said, I think if you went with either Radius or Leonardo, you'd be in a great spot. I've had a bias towards Leonardo since I got into pens. I really like the brand a lot. And Radius, I think they're really gonna make a name for themselves in the market and get a good place. Having a near identical performance to Leonardo is a really good sign. Them buying that company I think is great. Now that they're coming out with new colorways like this, and then they did a primary manipulation one and then a Bohemian Twilight, I think it's a really good sign to see where this company's headed. They're keeping a really nice clean aesthetic, just modernizing it with new resins and materials. I think it'll be good to look back at this video like a year or two from now to see what else they come out with. I would say if you got either of these, you're honestly going to be pretty happy with your purchase. Overall, that's everything from me, and I hope you learned a little bit you didn't know about Leonardo and Radius. Thank you. Fiortula. But the purple one is made by Taylor Pen Company. Okay, the purple one, they're both purple.